everyone, this is Nebrall Games, and here we have our tutorial for That's My Throne. The king has been captured by Lizardzilla, so the Council of Elders determines the way in which the new king will be elected among the adopted sons of the king. This game is a roll and write game in which you use paper and a pencil. You can play alone or with 4 friends. So the game will last about 20 minutes per player. So it means if you play with two more people, you will be lasting the game about 60 minutes. So the requirements for the game are the following. First of all, the player sheet of paper. Then you also have your board game. You will need also a pencil for each player, and of course the dice according the number of players. So for you to know, this is the regular amount of dice that you will be needing for 2 players. 1 red, 2 blue, 3 green and 3 white. And of course you will also have 1 dice of different color in the reinforcement zone. 1 green, 1 white and 1 blue. The objective of the game is to get as much glory points as you can in just 4 rounds. Now, to start the game, you will have to deliver 1 player sheet to each player, and of course you will have to put the board game in the middle of your table. Then you have to choose a random way to determine who is going to be the first player. This game consists in 4 rounds, which every round consists in an initial part, and then you have the turn part. Round. The initial player will take all the dice on the table and will throw them. Then the first player will choose one of these dice and place them on his own sheet on the corresponding color. In my case, I picked up the green die and I can put it on the lumberjack or the miner. I will choose lumberjack. Then the other player, that is, it can be at my right, will choose another dice and will place it on the corresponding color. For example, let's imagine that he picks up the blue one and he can put it on the alchemist, on the trader, or even on the priest. Let's imagine that he chooses trader. You continue this way until all these dice are on every player's sheet. So now we continue with the turns. Election phase. I choose one of my dice and that will be my active die. Let's imagine this one. Then I have the activation phase. I can activate the ability that is on the die zone. Take into account that there are some abilities that diminish the number or value of your die. For example, alchemist here, trader here, or priest here. The value of the die corresponds to the faced up side of it. For example, this one has a value of 5, a value of 4, a value of 4, and a value of 3. And if after you finished your activation phase and your die has a value of 1 or more, you can proceed to the exploration phase. But in the other case, if the die has a value of 0, remove that die from the player sheet and continue to the final phase. Exploration phase. Take your active die, in my case is the lumberjack one, and move it as many squares as it's shown on the sided up phase, for example 5. There are 9 rules. Number 1, you can start your movement from the castle, or from a previously played die. Rule number 2, you cannot move over the mountain or over the water. Rule number 3, you must jump over an occupied square. Rule number 4, you must move in the same orbit, or you can move further to the next orbit. Take into consideration that every orbit has its number here. This is the orbit number 1, orbit number 2, orbit number 3, and so on. Rule number 5, you cannot move back on your movement. For example, you cannot do this. If this is number 5, I cannot move 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Or you move forward, or you stay in the same orbit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once you finish your movement in a square that doesn't have an enemy, like this or this, you win the benefits that are on the square. I move from here 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now you win 2 of wood and 1 of gold. How do you mark them on your player sheet? This way. Follow me. 1 gold is marked on the trader with 1 slash, and 2 of wood are marked on the lumberjack with 2 slashes. But since your lumberjack has its own ability, and whenever you stop on a square that has an wood, you earn 3 more wood. So you mark them. 1, 2, 3. Rule number 7. The dice played on the board will stay there until the end of the round. Rule number 8. You must always move the same number of squares as they are shown in the die. If you move over a square with an enemy, for example this one, you must stop there and fight against it. And the final phase. Every effect that is active during this turn will finish, and you proceed to the next player. The next player will always be the one to your left. When all the players use all their dice, the round will be finished. At the end of the round, the initial player will take the die that are further from the castle, in this case the orbit number 6, which is this die and this other die. And then he picks them up, he throws them. The die whose value is lower will be removed from the game. The round is finished and you start a new one. Before throwing the dice, take the die on the reinforcement zone that is corresponding to the following turn and add it to the set of dice. In this case, you will pick up the green one. Don't forget that every round the initial player will be different. The new player will always be the one to your left. Now, once you finish the 4 rounds indicated here, you proceed to the counting of glory points. Fighting. Only the champion and the hunter will have combat points. Now you have to compare the combat points of the die you are using and the combat points of the monster. In the case, if I would have had a lower number on my dice and I would have moved over this monster, I would have lost, because the lumberjack cannot fight monsters. But on the other hand, if you choose the champion die or the hunter die and the combat points of them is higher than the monster, you earn the reputation point that is marked below the monster, in this case 1, and you mark it on the champion square with 1 slash. There exist 4 areas of your game: the specialists, which are the blue ones, alchemist, trader, and priest. Then you have the gatherers, which are the green ones, the lumberjack and the miner. Then you have the support area, the blacksmith, hunter, and builder. And the last one, but not least, the defender. It is only the champion. First one, the alchemist. The first ability of the alchemist is to create red potions. To do so, you need to lower 2 of the value of your die. In this case, we will have a final die of 3. Then you spend 3 of wood. 1, 2, 3. Always make the X. It means you spent it. And now you win 1 potion. Don't forget to mark your potion here. 1. The abilities of the potions are red potion, +2 to the value of a die. Blue potion. You can move your die from one area, for example from the alchemist, to another one, like the lumberjack, but you have to lower the value into 2. And the gold potion, which gives you +2 to the combat points to your champion or to your hunter. Then the trader. With the trader, you can lower the value of your dice. The same amount you lowered, you spend your wood or mineral, and you will earn the same amount of gold -1. It means if I have 5 and I decide to spend 2, I diminish into 2, for example, the miner. Imagine I had 2. I spend them, and now I would win only 1 gold. Why? Because it's 2 minus 1 equal 1. The other ability of the trader is that even if you don't have a die on the zone, that's why it is marked with this symbol. Even if you don't have a die on this zone, you can spend 3 of gold to hire a mercenary, which will give you 1 combat point to your hunter or to your champion. The ability of the priest is that you can move a die from one zone to another, and every time you do it, you will earn a book. The number of the value that you spend depends on where you move it from. If you move it from the blue to a green, or to a green to the blue, you spend 3 to the value of your die. Then the gatherers are the lumberjack and the miner. Their ability is that if they finish their movement in a square who has a wood for the lumberjack or a mineral for the miner, you will earn +2 of miner or +3 of wood, depending on which one you used. The blacksmith needs to have a die on it. To use the ability, you need to spend the resources that it needs. If you create an equipment, you will mark the symbol of the equipment and the circle, and the rest of the players will only mark the circle. The hunter has the ability to fight as many monsters as his combat points. And besides, after fighting a monster, you can continue moving. The builder also needs to have a die on his own, and you can spend the resources they require to build a fortress, housing, or a temple. Don't forget that if you build the fortress, you mark the symbol of the fortress and the circle. All the other players will only mark the circle. The champion is the one who has more combat points in the game, and it's the one who can fight against enemies. The champion has a special ability that you can use during the exploration phase, and it is that if you spend 2 reputation points, even if you don't have a die in this square, you can move 1 extra square during the exploration phase. So it means if you have a die with 1 value, you can spend up to 6 points here, and you can move 3 extra steps. And this is the last part in which you count your points. What you have to do is very simple and intuitive. Just follow the symbols, count the points you gather with each character of your sheet, and don't forget to consider these points that you gain whenever you reached a milestone. The milestones are represented with the same color, blue in here, blue in here. And after you complete the sum, and if you are the one with the highest score, congratulations, now you are the new king of Bastardoom.